My stepmom was a thief for years, so I gifted her a lesson she won't forget. I caught her hand on camera, hovering over Dad's gray cash tin like a hummingbird deciding which flower to drain. For the dog walker, Colleen whispered to herself, crisp bills sliding into her purse as if they already belonged there. My name is Alex, 31, a paralegal who lives by paper trails and timestamps. I know how forms want to be filled and how people hide from them. After Dad's bypass in March, I moved my files into his den so I could manage his bills, meds, and the trust Mom created before she died. I told myself I was here to help, not to judge, but the numbers started telling their own story. The cash tin refilled on Thursdays, it thinned by Saturday nights. Tips for helpers, Colleen insisted. Helpers who never invoiced, never texted, never existed. I angled a discreet camera toward the desk, motion activated, date stamped. On Friday, June 14th, 7:42 p.m. Her perfume drifted in first, then her hand. She took $180, looked around, smiled at her reflection in the black TV screen, and left a note. IOC. She never paid an IOU in her life. If this were petty, I'd let it go. But petty adds up. And Mom's pendant, an oval opal set in scratched gold, was missing from the jewelry case she willed to me, the hinges cold as a morgue slab when I opened it. Dad said he hadn't seen it in ages. Ages meant after Colleen moved in. In law, we call these bad facts. In family, we call them rot. I know the law well enough to know I don't get to be judge, jury, and wrecking ball. But I also know the trust pays property taxes, and that a thief in the house is not a metaphor. I backed up the footage to a drive labeled garden tools and whispered to the empty den, "This is for Mom." That night, Colleen kissed Dad's forehead and asked me to hand her the tin. I smiled, and I handed her the real test. She didn't know the bills were marked or that someone was counting. A pattern is how truth announces itself when gossip has run out of breath. When I was a kid, things vanished. Dad's cufflinks, a silver spoon, Mom's patience. After Mom's funeral, little borrowings started to grow legs. Charity checks returned for signature mismatch, and Colleen would pout at the bank, blaming these new systems for being cruel to grief. Last month, the church posted photos of donations. Dad's name was listed for $50, not the $500 he believed he gave. Colleen shrugged, clerical mix-up. Clerks rarely mix up zeros in the donor's favor. Fresh wound. The opal pendant gone, replaced with a coil of cheap chain, a slither of metal that left my fingers smelling like pennies. I logged each incident in a doc, times, amounts, who said what. Dad called it paranoid, but then he'd glance at the front door and triple-check the deadbolt. P.O. Box. I asked casually while loading the dishwasher. For coupons, she said. Too quick, the plate screaming porcelain against porcelain. Who needs a P.O. box for coupons in 2024? P.O. boxes are small metal mouths at the post office. People use them to receive mail off the grid. No porch, no neighbors, no evidence. I checked Dad's online banking for recurring charges and found 3 labeled Care and Shine LLC, $119, 00 monthly. Dog grooming? House cleaning? Both. The site was a generic template with a stock photo of Suds and a husky. The phone line went to voicemail that never called back. I told Aunt Rosa, who keeps receipts like their prayer cards. Don't accuse, she warned. Document. People confess to paper. So I bought a notebook with numbered pages that couldn't be quietly torn out, and I started writing in ink that dries like judgment on a verdict form. I missed Mom like an ache in my teeth. I missed Dad, too, even though he was in the next room. In families, denial is more contagious than colds, and it always tastes sweet at first. First evidence should feel boring. Line items, dates, $13.99 here, $280 there, a $49 box fee, billed quarterly by the post office. The P.O. box was registered to Colleen's maiden name and Dad's last name. Enough to look legitimate to a lazy glance, sketchy to mine. I printed the form. Unit 214, renewal due September 30th. Who receives care invoices at a P.O. box? People hiding paper from kitchen counters. I drove to Riverside Credit Union, the branch near Dad's rehab clinic, and asked to verify a few autopays. The teller recognized me. Hi, Alex. I saw your dad last week. We looked at the screen. 3 Care and Shine charges since April, and a new payee labeled Blue Owl Storage for $59 a month. Colleen shopped like a specialist in keeping things just below a fight threshold. At home, Colleen breezed past with a candle that smelled like apology. "You worry too much," she hummed. "Stress ages you." She tapped my cheek. 2 light raps of ownership, then told Dad she'd signed him up for a rewards card to get points on groceries. Points are the step-siblings of debt. I almost let it go. People borrow. People forget. And who wants to accuse a woman who kisses your father's hand before dinner, whose lipstick leaves a careful oval on his water glass like a seal of care? Then the jewelry store called to confirm the insurance appraisal appointment for the opal pendant in yellow gold, likely 1989. The caller ID flashed, and my throat turned into a glass elevator falling. "I didn't make that appointment," I said. The clerk paused. "We have a copy of the piece on file from last week," she replied. "Copies don't come from nowhere, and neither do pawnbroker tickets." Escalation began at brunch, where Colleen told the server, "Our Alex is very sweet, but not practical. Papers are their personality." She laughed like a spoon-cracking custard. Dad chuckled nervously, and I kept eating eggs that tasted like erasers. By afternoon, the doorbell rang, and a bank courier delivered a thin envelope addressed to Thomas L. Everett. "We regret to inform you your application for a $15,000 personal credit line has been denied." Dad's eyebrows climbed. "I didn't apply," he murmured. Colleen folded the letter in half and in half again, smaller and smaller until it nearly vanished. "Spam," she declared. "They do this all the time." "No, they don't. Banks don't mail denials like flyers. They send them for a reason, with compliance ink on the page." The reference number linked to an online application timestamped Friday, 8:12 p.m., 25 minutes after my camera caught Colleen at the cash tin. "That's identity theft," I said quietly. "It's a clerical mess," she corrected, sharper. Dad touched my wrist beneath the table and whispered, "Please, let's not make everything a battle." I could see the battle anyway, chalk lines around us like outlines from a crime scene. That night, I checked the mailbox and found a Blue Owl Storage postcard. "We've upgraded security at Unit C-17. C-17 matched a passcode note on Colleen's phone, C-17-0929. My birthday is September 29th. Either she loved coincidences, or I'd been drafted into her password scheme without consent. I started to feel like a security guard in my father's life, counting doors and windows, counting size. The next morning, the Trust's online portal flashed red. "Change of mailing address completed, pending confirmation." Lines are crossed when the floor gives, and you call it dancing. Aunt Rosa sat across from me with a cup of coffee you couldn't argue with. "Evidence, or hush," she said. "You can't tear a house down because the wallpaper lied." I pulled out printouts, trust statements, Dad's Medicare copays, lists of authorized users. Under Visa 4821, a new name had appeared, C. Everett. Colleen's signature looked like confetti that refused to celebrate. "Authorized user means she can spend, but she's not liable for the balance," I explained. "It's legal if Dad consented, but these dates don't show consent." "When?" Rosa asked. "April 12th, I said. "Dad was under anesthesia then." Rosa took a slow breath that sounded like a verdict. "Document. No scenes. You're not TV." That afternoon, I printed a fresh power of attorney template. In our state, a POA must be notarized. It has limits. It is not a magic cape. The photocopy Colleen kept waving was a scan, poor resolution, my name spelled Alec, signature cut off by a shadow. Sloppy criminals are lucky until they aren't. Dad tried to broker peace. "Colleen is stressed," he said. "Just ask her. Asking thieves for explanations is how you collect bedtime stories." "I will ask her," I promised, in front of someone who writes things down. At 9:11 p.m., the motion camera pinged. Colleen opened the cash tin and frowned at the bills. I had replaced the top layer with marked 20 stamped with a dot of UV ink in the lower left corner. She took $120, counted the stack twice, and tucked it beneath a receipt for care and shine. I felt the click of a plan forming the way locksmiths feel tumblers fall. Quiet investigations respect the hubris of noise. I made a burner email, Everett, billing, review at Proton, and signed Dad up for push notifications from Riverside. I set text alerts on Visa 4821 for any charge over $50. By Tuesday, 3 pings. Bliss and Groom $89. Blue Owl Storage $59. Charity Care Foundation $250. I called Charity Care. They had no record of a $250 donation from Thomas that day. We have $25, the coordinator said gently. We're grateful. I printed a ledger, noted times, and walked Dad through each line. She wouldn't, he murmured. She would if she can, I replied, and hated the hardness in my voice. In the den, I found a manila folder. Household, do not touch. Inside were photocopied checks with Dad's name and a second signature line filled with a practiced loop that wasn't his. My own name sat under a POA concurrence, a stamp that didn't exist in our notary world. The copier had left a faint hair across the page like a stray truth. I bought a UV flashlight, the kind bouncers use. I marked 620s and 250s with a dot you'd miss in sunlight. I signed a $1 check from the trust to Dad's personal account, test transaction, to prove the routing path wasn't altered. The check had a watermark visible only in angles, a tiny lighthouse near the date. I photographed it from 3 angles and mailed it to the P.O. box with a letter. Address validation, no action required. Why are you smiling? Colleen asked at dinner. I found Mom's recipe box. I said, truthful enough. A recipe is a method, and I had one now. I slept poorly, the way hunters sleep on the night before rules get tested. Breadcrumbs taste like regret if you don't follow them fast. I visited Sun and Star Pawn on Maple and asked for the manager. A polite clerk, name tag Jasmine, checked the intake camera for June 8th. The screen flickered. There was Colleen's floral scarf and a black velvet pouch. Pay out $220, Jasmine said. Ticket number 3479. Do you remember the piece? I asked. Opal pendant, chipped edge. She replied without looking at notes. My throat closed like a fist. Is it still here? She checked the shelf. Hold expires today at 5, she said. After that, we move it. I paid the fee to extend the hold, took photos of the ticket, and called Detective Harper, whom I knew from a clinic workshop on elder fraud. Gather, don't confront, he said. If it's criminal, we need a clean chain. Back home, I reviewed Colleen's drives. Uber receipts ending near Blue Owl Storage Unit C-17, arriving 4:31 p.m. on the days the cash tin went light. Patterns make people brave. Bravery makes them sloppy. I told Dad I'd like to do a light audit, so taxes won't ambush us. He nodded, relieved to outsource fear. In the stack of envelopes, I found a letter from Riverside. Address change request received for trust account 7742. If you did not authorize, call within 10 days. The letter was dated 7 days ago. 10 days is the difference between a nick and an amputation. I dialed the number with a hand that pretended not to shake. Mini twist, the what bloomed before the why. Hidden credit card, Capital World Visa ending 9017. Issued May 3rd to Thomas L. Everett, mailing to P.O. Box 214, with an authorized user C. Everett. Dad never saw the physical card. It lived in Colleen's wallet, humming like a wasp. Blue Owl Storage billed the card. Care and Shine billed the card. The charity roundup charges were fake credits reversing into cash. I mapped it out on Aunt Rose's kitchen table with sticky notes. P.O. Box hidden Visa autopays pawn tickets cash, tin leakage fake address change for trust statements. The trust, meant to keep Dad's roof safe, was being primed for siphons. If the mailing address stuck, statements would stop coming to the house. No paper, no panic, until property taxes went unpaid and leverage arrived with a sheriff's smile. Rosa tapped the note that read, Opinion versus Evidence. Your past opinion, she said. You have motive constructed by opportunity. I filed a fraud alert with Capital World, logged the call time, 11:14 a.m. Agent Keisha, case ID 24-609-18, and requested a freeze. I also asked Riverside to flag any changes to Trust 7742. The banker, Mr. Long, promised to call if anything wobbles. Colleen hummed while polishing the stove, a domestic goddess with a private storm ledger. Family dinner Friday? She asked. I'll make lemon chicken. Perfect, I said. I'll bring a gift. Gifts teach. That's their secret violence. The plan needed lawfulness, patience, and the sort of pettiness that criminals confuse for kindness. I withdrew $500 in 20s and 50s, marked them with UV dots, and recorded serial numbers in my ledger. I typed a small card, "Thank you for caring for Thomas, bonus for extras," and slid the marked bills into a gold envelope addressed to Colleen. I also printed 3 statements: Capital World Visa 9017, charges, Blue Owl Storage C17, access logs, and Sun and Star Pawn intake with ticket 3479. Then I scheduled a meeting at Riverside for Monday at 10 with Mr. Long and forensic accountant Lynn from a firm we use at work. Dad would attend to discuss a CD renewal. Detective Harper would wait at the coffee shop across the street in case things turned felony. People behave better when witnesses drink lattes. Moral dilemma: tell Dad now and risk him tipping Colleen, or keep him in the dark and watch him crack at the reveal. I chose a third path: breadcrumb informed consent. "Dad, there are some accounting irregularities," I said Thursday night. "Nothing we can't fix if we're thorough." He swallowed. "Is it, Colleen?" he asked softly. "It's about the accounts," I said, because truth arrived in steps. He nodded like a man who wanted a bridge stronger than his fear. On Friday at noon, I placed the gold envelope on the dining table under the good china and set the camera to wide angle. Close call. Colleen walked in early from the salon, hair curled like intent. She found me in the den with copies spread like laid-out sins. "What are those?" she asked. "Dad's bill reminders," I said, sliding a folder closed with a comb I had to borrow from a future where this worked. She tilted her head. "You're so controlling, Alex. Thomas and I have a rhythm." She reached for the folder. I let her take the decoy. Utility bills, a magazine renewal, nothing with teeth. "You think I don't see what you're doing?" she murmured, almost tender. At dinner, Dad tried for normal. "To family," he said, lifting his water. Colleen presented the lemon chicken like an offering to banish suspicion. I placed the gold envelope by her plate. "You do so much," I said. "This is for me." Her eyes softened as only predators do when prey approaches willingly. She tucked the envelope into her purse without opening it. After dishes, she went upstairs alone. My phone pinged. Capital World Visa purchase, $178. 36 at Bliss and Groom. 8:41 p.m. Authorized by Chip. The marked cash hadn't moved yet. At 9:26 p.m., Dad folded into his recliner, exhausted. I checked the tin, intact. The house exhaled. I nearly did, too. Then the camera light blinked in the den, and a shadow crossed the doorway I'd left ajar. Sometimes thieves hesitate for the length of a prayer. The trap didn't require a speech. It required choreography. I'd booked a private room at Roma's on 5th, Dad's favorite. Dim lights, heavy cutlery, soft chairs for his back. The host would cue me with a napkin fold if Colleen brought anyone. She didn't. Monday, 10 a.m., Riverside would host a CD rollover discussion, where a monitor could mirror documents. But first, Saturday, the marked money. At 3:18 p.m., my phone buzzed. Blue Owl Storage, gate access C17, code entered. At 4:05 p.m., Sun and Star Pawn. Ticket opened. The system auto-emailed Jasmine. She pinged me. "Your hold item is here." I met Harper 2 blocks away. He briefed me. "If she passes marked bills to a pawn shop or bank, we can at least document." We reached the pawn shop at 4:20. Colleen was inside, velvet pouch again, a gold envelope half visible in her purse. Jasmine counted bills under a mini UV lamp, standard counterfeit check. The dots blinked like tiny northern lights. Jasmine looked up slowly. "Problem?" Colleen chirped. "Just routine," Jasmine said, and glanced at the security camera. Colleen pivoted, smile cooling. "I'll come back later." She left without the pendant. We didn't stop her. We didn't need to. Monday had already been reserved by consequences. Big reveal days always smell like copy toner and nerves. In Riverside's glass-walled room, Mr. Long connected the monitor. Lynn opened a folder labeled Account Activity Summary. Dad sat between them in his navy sweater, knuckles pale. Colleen perched at the end, glossed and unbothered. Before the CD renewal, Lynn said, "We noticed unusual activity on the trust and a Capital World Visa ending 9017. The screen showed charges: Blue Owl Storage, Care and Shine, Bliss and Groom, roundup donations reversed. Then a map, timestamps aligning with gate entries to Unit C-17. Then Jasmine's still frame from Sun and Star Pawn with the velvet pouch. Colleen laughed. Photoshop. Anyone can. Mr. Long pulled up the address change letter for Trust 7742, signed Alec, as POA concurrence. Lynn placed a genuine notary seal beside the photocopy. These are not the same, Lynn said. This signature was copied and pasted. Dad whispered, Colleen. His voice held both a plea and a resignation, twin ropes fraying. I placed the gold envelope on the table. Would you open this? She did. Lynn shone a UV flashlight. The dots flared to life. We logged these serials Friday, I said. We saw them tested at Sun and Star Saturday. Her smile dropped like a stage prop cut loose. He told me to manage things, she snapped, pointing at Dad. He forgets. Someone had to keep the lights on. Harper stepped in from the hall, badge tucked away but visible. We can keep this civil, he said. Or we can keep it official. Fallout isn't loud. It's paperwork. Mr. Long froze the trust's external transfers and flagged the Capital World card for fraud. Lynn compiled a packet for the Elder Protection Unit. Harper took statements, times, dates, photographs, serial logs, and contacted Blue Owl to secure footage. Sun and Star placed the opal pendant in a sealed evidence bag. Dad stared at his hands. Did you love me? He asked Colleen. Or my credit score? She didn't answer. She was busy doing math on her face. What to deny, what to cede. I'll pay it back, she tried. This is all a misunderstanding. You can repay a balance, Lynn said. You cannot repay signatures. We filed a police report. Case 25-311. F. Temporary restraining order drafted by Thursday, served Friday morning. Colleen's mouth a perfect O of woundedness when the deputy read the lines. Family fractured along the predictable fault lines. A cousin texted that I'd humiliated Colleen. Aunt Rosa mailed me a string of prayer hands and a check for lunch for strength. At work, I was late 2 days running, my inbox judging. My boss said, handle your father, we'll handle the filings, which is the best kind of mercy. At home, the quiet returned like an unfamiliar song. Dad walked slower. Guilt is a weight with its own rehabilitation plan. He asked, could I have stopped this? I said, you asked for love. She offered management. The bank mailed new statements to the house the following Tuesday. Healing needs rules or it dissolves into platitudes. We set them on a whiteboard and then in documents. No new credit lines. No authorized users without 2 signatures. Weekly statement reviews Sundays at 4 with tea and snacks. The trust now had 2 co-trustees, me and Aunt Rosa, so that grief couldn't appoint accountants anymore. The P.O. box was closed. Blue Owl storage canceled. Unit C-17 emptied under Harper's supervision. Inside, a thrift store chapel, our silver spoon, 2 cufflinks, Mom's chipped opal, a shoebox of gift cards bought with our money. Dad started therapy through the senior center. I let charm cancel doubt, he told his counselor. I joined him for 2 sessions, learned how to say, I'm angry, without swallowing it like a pit. We installed a small safe, not to hoard but to ritualize respect. The cash tin retired. We kept a petty cash log anyway, because trust grows best where receipts live. I dialed numbers to undo numbers, canceled Care and Shine, closed the Capital World account, disputed charges older than my patience but younger than the statute. Lynn taught me a new trick, set trusted contacts at banks, so no address changes happen without a 3-way call. We wrote it down, signed it, taped a copy inside the pantry door where ketchup used to hide. Sometimes I still smell Colleen's perfume and think it's the house remembering. Sometimes memory is just a hallway where footsteps have fewer places to go. Reflection is not revenge, it's inventory. I learned that boundaries aren't accusations, they're smoke detectors, annoying until they save you. I learned that authorized user is not a love language and P.O. box is not a synonym for privacy. I learned that marked bills glow brighter than denial, that a clean chain of evidence is a kind of prayer, that Mom's opal shines gentler for having been recovered, chip and all. For anyone watching, document, don't dramatize. List dates, amounts, last 4 digits, who said what and when. Ask your bank to flag address changes. Explain to your old-school relatives what a P.O. box does and what it can hide. If you must set a trap, set it inside the law. timestamps, receipts, witnesses. Then let paper do what paper does best, stand still while truth walks into it. On Sunday, Dad made lemon chicken from a card in Mom's handwriting, splattered with oil and years. "It tastes like her," he whispered. I plated it next to a small empty dish where the opal rested, a reminder that some homes are rebuilt with rituals more than bricks. Before we ate, I asked him gently, "Do you want to say anything to her memory?" He nodded, eyes wet but clear. "Thank you for leaving us a map," he said, "and for the child who learned how to read it." He smiled when I clicked on the tiny home camera and then finally turned it off.